Welcome to another BTL Exclusive where we're going to talk about the MLB season, give you guys a little State of the Union. Okay, we're going to be talking about April. It is May 2nd right now, and we're recording this puppy. And your two hosts, Krabs, me, and Jovan, are very excited to talk some baseball. Jovan, it's been one heck of a first month of the season. Let's talk about it. We got plenty of trending topics, but before we dive into some of these headliners, I want to ask you about your Rays. We'll go and get the Rays and the Nats report out of the way real quick. Okay, for our listeners, listening pleasure here. They're not going to want to hear us talk about our teams the whole time. Can I get a little Rays report here? How are you feeling on May 2nd as of right now?
It's kind of spinning, to be honest with you. If you want a perfect summary of Rays baseball, you can look to this past week where they went on a road trip to Arizona and San Diego, won 5 of 6, swept the Padres, and then came back home to get swept by the Royals, which I really don't understand. They're sitting like 3 games below 500 right now, which is not great, but they've been playing a little better than their record would indicate. I don't really know where the team's at right now. I'm a little concerned because they really can't hit at Steinbrenner Field. I thought that was going to be one of the things like that would hurt the pitching, I guess, the fact they weren't in the Trop, but I was expecting it to be a boost to all bats involved, not just the opposing team, but they really can't hit there. So I'm kind of concerned about that for the long term of the season. But the fact that they've had so many games there to this point, maybe there's some optimism that they're just going to go on the road and be them.
I feel like if there's any team in baseball that is a contrarian, it's the Rays. I feel like they zag when they're supposed to zig. They do the opposite of what they're supposed to do at times. They take the road less traveled a lot of times. And like you just said, they should be crushing the ball in this park that, on paper should have plenty of runs, and they're not. I feel like that's typical Rays form right there. But Jovan, a lot of ball left, man. A lot of ball left. We're still only about a month in, and the rest of that division looks like crap. So we'll talk about it and the rest of the division and see, how you think your Rays stack up against the rest of the AL East. My Nats, and I'll keep this short and sweet, I promise. Imagine if the Nats spent real time and money in this offseason getting a nice bullpen. They would be over 500 right now, legitimately. And I think the team is a little ahead of schedule. I think Rizzo was really thinking next year was going to be the year. This year, they'd be a little bit better, closer to 500s. And next season is the year where we go all in. And this upcoming offseason is when we go out and get a couple more arms, a couple more veterans. I feel like the team is a little ahead of schedule. Now, it hasn't been the greatest series they're coming off of in Philly, but look, the Nats have a ton of young talent. They're veterans. Yeah, got a couple guys struggling, but Nate Lowe is extremely clutch and a veteran in that clubhouse. But imagine if this team had a legitimate bullpen, Jovan. Number one, I would certainly be living longer because I'd be a lot less stressed. And number two, the Nats would probably be at least closer to 500, if not above it, because of all the games they've blown. So it's a shame that the ownership is not willing to spend money, but I know that's an issue for the majority of the teams in baseball, right? We all can't be fans of the Yankees and the Dodgers. So it is what it is, and we'll see if the team can improve and the bullpen can improve. Hey, it is a good sign at least. We did just DFA Colin Poshak, maybe the worst pitcher in baseball. So
really
we got a chance.
Really bad. That'll maybe help knock the number down because the Nats do have by a pretty decent margin, the highest bullpen ERA in the league. I'm looking at it right now. It's 7.12, and the second highest is the Angels at 5.99. So, got some work to be done there, Krabs.
What a waste, right? All this fun, all this young talent. The Nats are so scrappy and fun. They're cool. They're swaggy. So much young talent. James Wood is him. Literally a left-handed Aaron Judge. Just wait till he figures it out. This team is just wasting all the talent. It's a shame. Maybe they're ahead of schedule. Maybe the ownership is just broke as heck. I don't know, but it's a shame. Bullpen's costing us wins. That's enough Nats talk for probably the entire month. Jovan, why don't we hop in and talk about some better squads? All right, there's one team that's playing pretty darn well this season so far. I've been pretty impressed with the squads. They're playing a little bit better, about a week or so ago, but they're still in first place right now and leading their division, the Chicago Cubs. Don't let the Cubs get hot, Jovan. It might be too late. I mean, after they started the season, looking brutal against the Dodgers over in that Japan series, although you give them a break. Weird series, halfway across the world. So maybe they weren't as dialed in, and they're playing against the Dodgers, the best team maybe ever. The Cubs have bounced back since then, and they've looked pretty good. Kyle Tucker looks like he's playing pissed off that he was traded. He's still trying to prove to the world that he's him. This Cubs lineup is mashing, and their pitchers are doing job right now. Jovan, do we think this is sustainable? Are the Cubs a shoo-in for the playoffs? Are they going to win this division? Or do you think we see them falling off in the coming weeks or months?
think the offense is sustainable. I'll say that. That
Right.
lineup packs an absolute punch. Like, you're getting damn near MVP level Kyle Tucker. I know he's gotten a little cooler. He's not as quite red hot by now, but he's been fantastic. Say has been fantastic. Like, PCA has been great. They got a lot of power up and down the lineup. Just the rotation with some of the injuries, like mainly the Justin Steele one, which I don't know his status, but not really going to count him in for really anything serious down the stretch with an elbow injury that he's still on the IL for. But it's really just Shota and everybody else. Like, you're getting Matthew Boyd starts, you're getting Ben Brown starts, you're getting Tyone, who's actually been a little better than expected. You're getting Colin Rea. So, like, some of the guys have been serviceable and they've actually had some pretty solid starts. But is that going to last? Probably not. Plus, you add that into the fact that their bullpen, that's never going to change. That's been bad all season and it's continued to get worse in certain spots. They're not too far off from your Nats, Krabs. They're sitting there at the 8th worst bullpen ERA at a 4.64. So they've been awful and they've been blowing games. Their offense has just been so good that it's kind of masked those problems. So I think for the full 162, asking them to hit their way out every single game is probably something that's going to bite them in the ass a little bit. But
Yep.
they're going to swing the bat. We know that.
You know, they're in a weird division. The Reds are playing good ball right now. They're low-key heating up, Jovan. The Brew Crew, they look a little bit off right now. Typically, the Brewers are, a staple at the top of this division, but you've seen their manager already benching players trying to prove a point. We've seen him pull, his young starting pitchers after 2 innings because he didn't like their effort and competitiveness up there on the mound. It's not really meshing right now out there in Milwaukee, and they're still 500 right now, which is impressive. That goes to show you how good of an organization Milwaukee honestly is and how underrated they are, even at their worst. They're still sitting at 500 right now. And, after losing some key players this offseason, losing their stud closer, I don't think a lot of people thought they would be even decent this year. And once again, the Brewers are still 500 and they're not even playing well. So do we think the Brewers are a better chance in the long run to maybe catch up to the Cubs? Or is it going to be your Reds who you've fallen in love with over the last couple of years, staying hot and maybe giving the Cubs a run for their money?
Yeah, I still think it's the Reds because as poorly as the Brewers are playing and still hanging around, like the Reds, it's been like different guys at different points, but like they haven't been playing incredibly well either. And they haven't been healthy either. Like Matt McClain is the one who's come back and been healthy, but he's been awful since he's come back. But like the guys who have come in and filled in and done job are like the Noel V. Martes of the world who's been seeing beach balls. Gavin Lux has been really, really solid. You're getting, as we record this today, like Tyler Stevenson's going to be back for the first time. And the rest of the lineup's been relatively inconsistent. The same goes for the starting rotation. Like Hunter Green was lights out for a couple starts, and now he's starting to give up some damage as expected. Like Lodolo hasn't been great. So like they haven't been all that great on paper either for a majority of the season. And they're still right there, like with the Brewers. So I think if there's any team I want to buy into, like obviously I'm a little biased in saying that, but it's probably them.
I think I'm right there with you. The Cubs are going to need a miracle from their pitching staff to keep this up, but I mean, their offense is doing everything they can, and they are balling out. I think one of the main facets of the Cubs' success this season is not just the way they're hitting the ball, but I mean, they've been so aggressive on the base paths. Jovan, they had 42 home runs in April and 44 stolen bases. They had more steals than home runs in that month. They are manufacturing runs. We've seen that be a thing over the last year or so in baseball when they made the bases a little bit bigger. They made these pickoff rules. They're trying to get some more wheels and some more stolen bases, I guess, in baseball. Try to, spark it up, make it a little more lively, I guess. And the Cubs are taking advantage of it. I talked about it in the beginning of the season. They brought in a new first and third base coach. They got rid of Mike Napoli, bless his heart, a legend of the game at the first base position. And their third base coach they got rid of, and they brought in the Brewers third base coach, and he's been sending these guys left and right. And I think if the Cubs can continue manufacturing runs and swiping bags, they have a chance. I'm not too impressed by the rest of this division this season, but the Reds are on the come up. We'll see how long they can keep this hot streak going, right? Because I'm with you. I don't think Hunter Green can keep getting away with it. I think he's due for some serious regression coming up. And is their pitching staff good enough to keep them on this hot streak? I don't know. A lot of good offenses in this division.
Yeah, the thing that I kind of like about them pitching staff wise is Hunter Green is on the opposite like trajectory as some of the other guys. Like he was Cy Young for the first couple starts of the year, and then now he started to regress a little bit. We'll see where he ends up, but a lot of the other starters have been really, really bad, and like the expected numbers are rather good. So like I know we've been betting on like the Nick Martinez's of the world to have bounce back starts the last couple times out, and he's started to do that. Like I think Lodolo is going to find to figure it out, and the bullpen surprisingly has been really good. They've been putting themselves in like really tough spots usage wise at times, so it makes it seem a lot worse than they actually are. And Alexis Diaz is getting sent down through all of this, but through everything, they still have a top 10 bullpen in the league, which I don't think anybody expected going into this season. So I think it's sustainable, and there's some big matchups as we get into May. I think they have 2 series against the Cubs towards the end of this month. So we'll find out exactly who they are probably throughout May.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see if they can stay hot. All right. The NL Central is a muck fest right now. We didn't even talk about the Cardinals, who are 4 games under 500. I mean, who knows with them, right? They could end up finishing in last place below the Pirates, who right now are sitting in last. Or the Cardinals could go on a run and finish in first place. This is a weird division. I would not want to have a future in this division right now, but if I had to take one, I'd probably back the Reds. I'm with you. I think you convinced me on their starting pitching. Maybe we can get some positive regression from some of the rest of the starters in that rotation besides Hunter Green. Okay. Can we talk about the Mets?
Let's talk about them.
Yeah, let's segue here. Let's talk about the NL East. Let's talk about the Mets. Look, they're playing great ball right now. They're winning the division. I mean, it definitely helps that the Braves are under 500 and the Phillies got out to that slow start, although the Phillies are starting to get going as well. The Mets don't have much competition right now in this division. Are you impressed more by their play, by their offense, by, Pete Alonso having a great start to the season, Lindor starting to get going, or are you more just disappointed with the rest of the squads in the NL East?
I would say it's a fair bit of both. The thing that I'm impressed about with the Mets, I guess, so far is kind of the way they're doing it. Like, I don't think it's crazy to say that, the Mets, they're fantastic. And they've been fantastic so far this season. But, like, I think a lot of us thought they were going to be good, obviously, with the additions they made in the offseason, not just Soto, but some of the guys around him. But the offense really hasn't been all that good. It's been the pitching staff that's been fantastic to start the season. So, like, that's the part that most impressed me. Guys like David Peterson and Griffin Canning have been relatively solid. Like Peterson's rocking around a 3 ERA. Griffin Canning is even lower than that. Tyler McGill has been fantastic. The Clay Holmes experiment seems to be working for now. So that's what I'm most impressed about when it comes to the Mets. Do I think that's going to last? No, because across the board, those expected numbers and everything under the hood for all the Mets pitchers are not very good. That's like everything I personally would look for in terms of fading a pitcher going through the rest of the season or even like season 2 season. So I don't know if it's going to last exactly, but when you have the offense that they do, and that's already not performing really well right now, like it's hard to not be optimistic that one of them can turn it around or some of them can. We just saw Soto finally get his first 2 home runs in Citi Field yesterday. So who's to say they don't get hot as a lineup? So I'm impressed with the Mets. I'm still standing on my Phillies take though. I'm not really worried about them either. Their lineup's been pretty cold. Pitching staff's been good.
Yep.
I think they'll figure it out.
You worried about Nola?
Not really. I mean, I still think even if he turns out to be like what he's been so far this year, I think the most, again, I think I said this when we were talking about the pod, or talking on the pod about the Phillies too. I think the most underrated offseason addition that nobody seemed to be talking about was Jesus Luzardo. And he's been fantastic for them so far to start this year. And guys like him, guys like Christopher Sanchez, I think have outperformed expectations. So even if Nola doesn't turn out to have the big time turnaround throughout the season, I think guys like that are kind of pulling their weight around him. So like, I'm not too worried about what the pitching staff's going to be.
Yep. Phillies are 3 games over 500s. They're starting to figure it out. The Braves have won 7 of their last 10. They're 2 games under 500. They're starting to figure it out. It's going to be a 3-horse race at the end of the day in this division. The Nats aren't ready yet. We've already talked about it. Their bullpen is an absolute joke. If the owners think that they have a chance to fucking compete against those 3 great squads with this bullpen, I mean, I want what they're smoking because they're high. Absolutely absurd. Rolling out that bullpen day in, day out, thinking they have a chance. Now, I will say the Mets bullpen, I feel like they're always solids. And Diaz has been all over the place, but it hasn't really bit him in the ass yet. He doesn't have the commands, but he's been getting the saves. I could see that being something down the line that hurts this team. And they're also missing Jose Iglesias, who was on a new squad this year, and he was really the heart and soul of this team last year. You remember the OMG song that went viral and He was like the glue guy in the locker room. He's one of my
Yeah.
favorite MLB players, straight up. After hearing all that stuff last year and seeing how much his teammates love him, he must be just the all-time locker room guy. Has a song that he makes as a joke that literally goes viral on the Spanish top 100 billboards. And the guy is now like in the offseason, he's traveling around the world doing concerts, playing this freaking song. It's unbelievable. Now he's on a new squad. He got his bag. I think the Mets are going to miss him down the line. And the Mets are missing Juan Soto right now. And I know those are two separate things, but people are acting like it matters. Number one, Juan Soto is starting to get going. Okay. And people are acting like he's, being immature. He's got an attitude right now. No, the guy's just not hitting well, and he's not happy out there on the field. Okay. As soon as he starts hitting like Juan Soto, the guy we know he is, he's going to be a joy out there running around, smiling, cracking jokes, being one of the boys, just like, Winker and the squads. I know that clip in the dugout went viral a couple of days ago of Juan Soto looking like he didn't want to be there. That's because he's hitting 250 right now. Juan Soto's pissed off. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's got all this pressure, all this weight on his shoulders, right? He got this huge bag, and he knows he has to live up to it. He's not like one of these typical guys who gets fat, happy, and complacent. I think he's trying a little bit too hard. But let's also not forget this, Jovan. The Mets didn't pay Juan Soto all this money to play good right now. The Mets did not pay Juan Soto all those millions of dollars to carry their team in fucking May. Okay, they could have Pete Alonso do that and hold Juan Soto's jockstrap while he's at it. Okay, they paid Juan Soto to come in and play well in October when it matters, because that's what the Mets are lacking. Ever since I've been alive or have memories, the Mets have been solids, and then they blow it in the postseason, or they blow it down the stretch, and they don't even make it into the postseason. They're an absolute joke, clown show. They're the least clutch team in the National League, in my opinion. That's why they paid Juan Soto to come in, because he has ice in his veins, and when the lights are bright, he's one of the few people out there that actually plays better. That's what they paid him for. None of this matters. Juan Soto could hit 100 the whole season. Doesn't mean shit, because once the lights get turned up and they get to the postseason, Juan Soto is going to do what Juan Soto has always done in the postseason, and that's be the best hitter in the goddamn postseason. He's him. He'll be fine.
He's good.
He'll be fine. Not worried about it. All right. Any other comments about the NL East?
Marlins.
Say one nice thing or bad thing about the Marlins, please.
I could say a lot of good things, frankly. I feel like they have a lot of fun young players that people really don't pay attention to, because obviously they're the Marlins and they're losing games. But like Eric Wagaman is a sneak. I'm not even just saying this for betting purposes, because he's been a wagon in that form, but like he's been a great hitter in that lineup. And that, like, you got guys like Xavier Edwards setting the platter for him. Like, you got Dane Myers, who went through his like little run. They have a lot of guys that I think are a lot better than people give them credit for. It's kind of a more fun lineup than people would realize. It gets kind of washed away just because they're the Marlins. But I wanted to shout out Wagaman. He's goated.
That's your guy. You've been talking about it in the last couple of weeks. He's been crushing the baseball.
Yeah.
You've seen it great.
Literally him.
All right. You said one nice thing about him. I'll say one mean thing about him. They're still trotting out Cal Quantrill out there. What are they thinking?
I mean, that's just like it's the same thing as Patrick Corbin being on the Nats. They just need an innings.
Well,
especially because fucking Sandy is terrible.
Timeout. There's a significant difference. The Nats paid Patrick Corbin $1 bazillion, and they're going to milk him for all it's worth.
Okay.
Well, I can't imagine the Marlins are paying Cal Quantrill.
Wrong team comparison. Patrick Corbin and the Rangers is a better comparison.
Sure.
They need innings.
Good.
And he's actually somewhat decent.
Well, he has an 80 RA. So.
Yeah, but that's pretty heavily skewed.
I know. He's either been really good in his starts or really bad. He's had a couple really good starts and a lot of really bad starts.
I don't know. He doesn't have 80 RA. He has a 3.79. He's good.
No way he has a 3.79 ERA, and I'm looking at bad data.
Yeah, I was just thinking that the first Cubs start I thought was a lot worse than it was. It wasn't. But the rest of the starts, he's been good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Bruh.
I've seen four starts. Cubs, he gave up 3. Angels, 1.
Nah, bad data. I see 6 starts.
Where?
I see 6 starts.
What starts, Krabs?
Mets, Braves, Nats, Phillies, Seattle, Dodgers.
Nats?
On 4/13.
He started against the Nats.
Yes, and he gave up 7 hits and 3 runs. It was actually one of his better outings. How about it?
What was that? They didn't play them this year, did they?
4/13. Yep. April 13th.
I think you're looking at the wrong games, Krabs.
I'm looking at ESPN. Either way, it doesn't matter.
On April 13th, the Nationals were playing the Marlins. So that can't be it.
All right. Well, I blame ESPN, and I'll put that up there. It literally says.
Oh, are you talking about Cal?
Yes.
I was talking about Corbin, dude.
What are you doing?
You
think I'm talking bad about Patrick Corbin? That's my guy. Think I'd ever say a bad thing about him?
Yeah, I was saying that's what I was saying. I was saying he's been a little better than Cal was, but Cal, I guess same thing could apply. Actually, like his stats have been rather skewed by like the two really bad starts he had. But they just need
that was all-time brain rot. 10 out of 10 brain rot. Yep. All right, say Cal Quantrill is not very good, and then we can move on.
He is not. But
let's go. Come on.
At this point, Sandy might be right there with him, which is crazy.
I mean, yeah, they don't have better options. They don't have any better options. You're right.
Sandy quite literally has a higher ERA than Cal.
Sandy probably needs to hang him up and is clearly not the same guy. I feel bad for him, to be honest with you. And I think we've talked enough about the Marlins probably for the rest of the State of the Unions, for the rest of the entire MLB season. And for that reason, we can move and groove. Shout out Cal Quantrill. Unbelievable. All right, let's talk about the AL East. We just talked about the NL East for a little bit. We talked about Juan Soto. We talked about Cal Quantrill. Let's talk about the AL East here for a second. I've been pretty disappointed so far with the AL East, Jovan. I mean, the Yankees are 18-13, great as they should be. They got one of the most expensive rosters in baseball. They're the Yankees. They should be over 500. The Red Sox, barely over 500. They're one of the trendiest teams in this offseason. The rest of the squads are under 500 right now, and I thought this was a division where potentially all 5 squads could be above 500 at this point of the season. I've been very disappointed, especially by the Blue Jays, your Rays, and Goots' O's. And the Red Sox, I didn't really think they were going to be that good to begin with, so I wouldn't even say they're underperforming that much. I'd say they're just doing what I expected them to be doing, and that's playing minimally above 500 baseball. Let's start with the Yankees, because we do deserve a shout out for Aaron Judge, who, he's not being as much of a me guy of late, Jovan. He's hitting less home runs and more singles, although he still leads baseball with 10 home runs so far up to this point in the season, which is insane. The guy's hitting 400s. Have you ever seen a performance like this to start the year?
Yeah. Cody Bellinger, MVP year.
Wow.
But
ball.
Yeah. I only know that because everybody was posting that he had the greatest month of all time, and like all the comparisons were to that year because Cody Bellinger is literally better in every single stat. So yes, I have seen it once, but yes, it is amazing what Judge has done so far this year. And it's definitely like it's a noticeable difference in the lineup in the last couple of weeks with like his approach now, which he's been ripping singles, he's been ripping base hits, he's kind of taking what the pitcher's giving him instead of trying to do it all himself, and it's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of these arms, and it's working for the Yankees lineup because they're actually getting a clean flow of offense going. So it's pretty scary.
Yeah, I agree. Although I don't think they'll ever win the World Series this year because they don't have Garrett Cole. No Garrett Cole, no World Series in my brain. But I mean, in a crummy American League, they'll probably end up winning this division. They'll probably end up making a run. Wouldn't be shocked. Paul Goldschmidt looks great. Their offense looks great. Your guy, Ben Rice, just tearing the cover off of baseballs.
I wish he wasn't a Yankee, dude, because he's honestly one of my favorite players to bet on, obviously, but just to watch in the league.
He might be better than Aaron Judge.
Yeah, rumors are saying. Swirling.
The rumors are from me. I'm the only person that's ever said that or thought that. But he's crushing the ball. He's absolutely crushing the ball. He's been very impressive. The Yankees, they're doing their thing. Talk about the Red Sox for a sec, because we both were not very high on them heading into this season. A lot of the public was. They made a lot of splashes in the offseason. They spent some money. Bregman's been doing a job. I believe he's still leading baseball in extra base hits, which is a take that I saw a lot from people because they thought he was just going to mash the ball off the green monster. He's been doing that a little bit, but he's also been doing it on the road as well. He's good. Alex Bregman confirmed still good at baseball and maybe just need a little change of scenery to bring back, the best out of him. Devers, not been so great. Shocker after they took away third base. Horrific
ball player. There's not many ball players I watch and I just can't stand watching at times than Devers.
Yeah. It sucks because I was a Devers guy, low-key kind of like the Red Sox a little bit, or at least I used to. So I always kind of root for them, and I also just hate the Yankees. So, of course, I'm going to root for the Red Sox at times, especially in those series. But Devers, I've grown to like him over the years. The guy's just an unbelievable hitter. I've been so disappointed, and I'm almost embarrassed watching him out there this year. It seems like he just doesn't give a hoot at all. It seems like he is just so checked out ever since they brought in Bregman, and he just doesn't care about the team. He's a me guy. If that's not clear as day, you guys aren't watching the games because it's not a coincidence that he's having by far the worst start to a season ever when they bring in Bregman. And he had all that drama heading into the season. I don't think it's a coincidence at all.
No, I don't think so. That was part of my, I guess, concern with the team. You got your star who's been there for a while, who's a little unhappy. There's some questions about where he's going to play, what he's going to do, and what do you know? I mean, he looks extremely uncomfortable to start the year. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad as like his early season streak where he was legit striking out every single time he stepped in the box. But I mean, he hasn't been drastically better. He's still hitting 228.
Yeah. Need to see more out of him. Been very disappointing. The Red Sox don't stand a chance unless he is one of the best hitters in the AL.
Yeah, and they're going to need to because, I mean, the main concern we talked about with the Red Sox is the rotation. Tanner Houck.
And they got plenty of guys. They're just not good.
Yeah, Tanner Houck, even though he had a pretty good start last night, we still got a 6.38 ERA. Like Walker Buehler's banged up now, so you're getting Bayo pushed up. You are getting Giolito back, which is cool, but how good is he going to be? We really don't know. So, I mean, there's just so many questions outside of Crochet in that rotation, and then like you get to the part where Crochet still hasn't, had a full workload of innings an entire season as a starter in the MLB yet. So like we're on May 2nd. So like it's not a concern as of yet, but once we start getting to July, August, and around then, it might become a little bit of an issue. You might see some wear and tear. I mean, I'm not rooting for an injury of the guy, but it's always on the table with the guy who hasn't done it before. The same thing happened to a lot of the other relievers the Red Sox converted. So we'll see how it holds up. They're a rotation that I'm really, really worried about how they're going to look come second half of the season.
Yeah, they got some work to do, and they're hanging on by a thread right now. They're already dealing with some starting pitcher injuries, and we're only a month into the season. So good luck, Red Sox. Let's talk about the Blue Jays here for a sec. They're only one game under 500. They're starting to wake up a little bit. Vladdy's starting to get going here, Jovan. Do we think the Blue Jays could maybe make a run here? I feel like nobody's been talking about them all year.
Yep, and remember that was another take that I had at the beginning of the season. Love their win total. I'm sitting on that. I think they're the most interesting out of all the teams that are kind of sitting here. Like the Yankees are the front runners, sure, but like the rest of the teams, like the Red Sox are kind of hanging around. The Jays are hanging around. The Rays are kind of hanging around. The Orioles are rat meat. But the Jays like are hanging right in the middle of all these teams where they really haven't looked all that good. Like Vlad's been terrible, but like mainly the pitching. Like Chris Bassett had his little insanity run for a while, and now he's starting to look like Chris Bassett, and I don't think that's going to change. But Gausman looks absolutely terrible. Bowden Francis, another like Tanner Houck-ish guy where we expect some regression going into the season. He looks terrible. You were getting Easton Lucas starts for a while before he got sent down. He's terrible. Barrios really hasn't looked all that good or all that bad, kind of like classic Barrios. He's got like a 4 ERA. But the rotation hasn't been good. Like the lineup hasn't been all that good either, outside of like Springer's been a little better than people expected. But like Vladdy hasn't been all that good. Bo Bichette was iffy to start the season. Now he's starting to heat back up. So like all of this combined, and the Blue Jays are sitting right there with pretty much the rest of this division at only a game under 500. So to me, they start to put it together even the slightest bit, especially coming from Vlad and Bo, which they badly need. And God forbid you get Gausman to start looking like a half-decent pitcher. That's a scary-ass team, Krabs. I think they can compete with almost anybody in that division.
I agree. When nobody expects it, when Romano is on the move, although he's not moving needle, in my opinion, that bullpen too much anymore. Nobody wanted to back this Blue Jays team this year, although Vladdy gets paid. That's great. He's starting to mash baseballs. He had a home run the other night. He could lead this team to the top of the AL East. I would not be shocked. Certainly wouldn't be shocked if they overtake the Red Sox here soon.
Yeah.
Watch out for the Blue Jays.
Out of all the teams that I guess are kind of hanging around, obviously it's May, so I mean, pretty pointless to talk about like the wild card race at this point. But a lot of the teams that are kind of hanging around there that I don't know if they're going to win their division, but can have a shot to get in the playoffs. I think the Blue Jays are certainly top of my list.
Yep. Well, there's one more team in the AL East that we have not talked about yet, Jovan.
Is there? I don't know.
The Orioles. Yeah, unfortunately, we do still have to mention them and talk about the rat shit Orioles, who, by the way, I still believe in, and I got a soft spot in my heart for this team. There's better days to come. There's better days ahead. Now, there's some moves that need to be made when it comes to the starting pitching, and I know they got some guys coming back from injury here soon, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, right now they're holding on for dear life. They're already 6 games under 500. Now, the good thing is the rest of the division is not making too much space out ahead of them. They're only 5.5 games back from first place. Not fourth place, not third, not second. First. The whole division has not been elite yet. Obviously, the Orioles are lacking the most. I still believe in this offense. They got some work to do with that rotation. But hey, maybe Bradish comes back and he's pretty darn good. He has been, knock on wood, every time he's been healthy, right? Besides the injuries, the guy's great. Maybe Gray Rod comes out and they can get something out of him this year. They're going to need to. They're going to need to at the end of the season.
They keep pushing his timeline back. I don't even know if he's going to see the field before 2028 at this point.
Who knows? They're going to need him.
Yeah, they're going to need him. I mean, they need you out there, Krabs. They need somebody because
anybody else.
Staff is bad, but
anybody else.
I would say this is like judgment month for the Orioles because they're bad. I don't have as much hope for them as you do, but looking at their schedule, like they're playing a lot of teams and a lot of bad offenses that I guess if they want any chance to contend in this division or push for like a playoff spot the rest of the year, figure it out this month. Listen to their series that they have starting today. They get the Royals at home, bad offense, even though they're starting to play a little better. You get the Twins, another team that's struggling mightily on offense right now. You go to LA to see the Angels. You're back at home against the Twins. You're back at home against the Nats. You go to see the Brewers, big series against the Red Sox. Then you have the Cardinals and White Sox to close the month. If the Orioles are not over 500 by the time May is over, they're done. Absolutely done.
Well, that's a big ask because they're 6 games under 500 right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And
I mean,
games against the White Sox, Angels, and you got to take a good chunk of them against the Twins, I think, too. You get 6 games against them. And the Nats, I mean, and the Royals, you get matchups where you're going to be decent favorites in every game against the Royals, I think. So, like, these are offenses that are not that much better than yours. Take your advantage because looking at the rest of their schedule, I mean, it doesn't get any lighter, really, than you do in May.
Okay. It's now or never for the O's, I believe. Look, they're already making good moves. They moved Charlie Morton to the bullpen. That's step number 1, right? I wouldn't be sitting up here if they didn't make that move saying I believe in them. If they were still doing the same stupid shit day in, day out. They made a move. They put Uncle Charlie in the bullpen. There's probably a couple other moves to be made. But they also have a couple bright spots. Felix Bautista, their closer, knock on wood, is returning back to elite form. Sugano's been pretty solid for them. The import coming over from Japan. He's been a very solid veteran for this Orioles squads. He has. I think there's a couple other positives that are getting overshadowed by some of their faults because their faults are atrocious with the starting pitching right now overall besides, Sugano that I just mentioned. So they have work to do. I still believe, but I do agree with what you said, Jovan. It's now or never for the O's. We'll see if they can turn it into second gear. Okay?
Yeah. And I'll give them this. I guess the one positive I'll tap the shoulder on for is contract year Cedric Mullins. It's kind of like Tony Tater's last year.
Have a year.
Showed out with some money on the dotted line on the line. And he looks great this year. 278, 6 tanks. He's been one of the only, like, even when the O's are completely dead in the game, it seems like he's one of the only ones having actual decent at-bats and starting the offense up. Not that it's amounted to much when he's not hitting them out himself, but he's looked great. I'll give them credit there.
Agreed. Shout out Cedric Mullins. Hopefully he can keep carrying the weight, hitting leadoff and stuff. I remember only a year or so ago, that guy couldn't even sniff a baseball. Now look at him.
He was pretty bad. I mean,
he was struggling for a couple of years.
234 last year. It's big time struggling, and obviously they couldn't put him in as many spots against lefties as they would have liked to. This year he's seeing him a little better. So big plus.
Yep. See, there are some positives for the O's. They just get overshadowed by the rat shit starting pitchers. Okay, there's better days to come.
the offense can score 8 runs a lot of games and they'll still lose.
I know.
It's the way it goes right
Sad.
now.
I know. Hey, I think we'll see the Orioles turn it up here in May, like you're talking about. Pretty easy schedule. It's now or never. If they don't, they're dead.
Dead.
Can we talk about the San Francisco Giants?
Wow. The G-Men.
Maybe one of the most surprising squads so far up to this point this season. I thought they'd be terrible again. They're not. They're actually pretty solid. 19-13. Only 2.5 games back of the Dodgers right now in the NL West. If you would have told me the Giants were 6 games over 500 at this point, I'd say, what are you talking about? There's no shot. Not in that division. Not when they got to play the Dodgers, the Padres, the D-backs all the time. No chance. It's been a great start. How much credit do you give Buster Posey? Do you think it's a coincidence that this team is starting to figure it out, return back to their elite form that they were in not too long ago? Let's not forget, Jovan, besides the last 4 or 5 years, you take the decade and a half before that, this is one of the best baseball organizations in the entire sport. The Giants won multiple World Series, led by guys like Mad Bum, Tim Lincecum. When I was younger, they were one of the best teams in baseball for almost a decade. Last couple of years, they've fallen off a cliff, but they're starting to show some signs of life. Are you giving credit to Buster Posey? Do you think they're just getting lucky? Where's your head at with the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder just how much Buster has his hands on everything as president of baseball ops. I wonder if he's like directly involved in a lot of the moves of the offseason or what. But I don't know. It had an interesting offseason, one that I thought was, I don't know. I was curious, especially about the Willy Adames move, which I love Willy Adames, but I don't want to give him much credit at all because he hasn't really been good. He's been terrible. He's been hitting 218, but the rest of the moves, I guess, were great. I was excited to see Jung-Hoo Lee. I was excited to see some of the pitching they brought up. I do still think I'm a little worried about some of the rotation. I could make the same argument like that I talked about for the Blue Jays, though. The Giants are just a better team. The Giants have been great, and I don't think the pitching's really fully come around yet. And I still think there's moves to be made. I'm not a Landon Roop guy. I don't think a lot of the advanced stats nerds really are either because under the hood it looks pretty bad. Like Justin Verlander's frankly been really bad in a lot of spots where he's not facing the Rockies and the worst team in baseball, even though that kind of fell apart last night too. They're still putting it together. Like Logan Webb is pitching at a Cy Young level. Again, I know he's coming off of a bad start, but he's largely been fantastic. So I think this is a very interesting team. They do this very often, though, and they have these kind of blazing hot stretches of baseball. Sometimes it's not always the start of the season. It's at some random point, and then they kind of fold. So I'm wondering if they're going to do it again, but this does feel like a little different of a team than past years.
Yeah, who's been really, really good and impressive for this squad that I was not expecting? Jung-Hoo Lee.
The GOAT.
Have a year, Jung-Hoo Lee. My goodness. 8 out of 10 of these guys come over here. They stink. Respectfully. They just do. Been so impressed by Jung-Hoo Lee. Plug and play. Looks like an MLB ball player for the last decades. And he's only 26. Honestly, one of the younger guys that's come over in the last couple of years. Usually these guys are coming over when they're like 30. Shout out Jung-Hoo Lee. He has been really impressive, really fun to watch. That kid's a spark plug for this offense. I'm not the biggest Willy Adames guy. And I'll be honest, I think Matt Chapman needs to step up here. I'm seeing this guy out here making errors. I'm not seeing him hit enough nukes. Where's the old Matt Chapman I used to know and love? Jung-Hoo Lee's been carrying the weight, though. He's been very impressive from the left side, hitting over 315 this season. We'll see how long that lasts. But if he keeps hitting and you get good pitching performances like you got from Justin Verlander last night, the sky's the limit for the Giants. Even in this really good division, they could sneak into a wild card. Who knows?
Yeah. I'll tell you who I'm super disappointed about. Patrick Bailey. I think a lot of us thought was going to put together the people were calling him the next Buster Posey, and he was just a guy that I think a lot of us, especially dynasty fantasy owners and the Gootses of the world, super excited about long term. He's been pitiful. He's hitting 150, just not a single at bat looks competitive. It's just really bad. I mean, he's still doing his normal stuff behind the plate defensively. It's just he's been just atrocious to watch at the lineup. And the top of the lineup's been set and platter, and you've had RBI opportunities for him to come up, and every single time it just looks like he's lifeless at the plate. So I wonder if that ever is going to turn around, and if, I don't know, maybe they would think about sending him down for a bit to get it together and bring Sam Huff or somebody back up here. But he looks really, really bad, Krabs. I think it's probably time to start getting concerned.
Yep. I agree. He looks bad. Goes to show you how hard playing catcher is, man. That's the toughest position in baseball. You're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. He's still killing it behind the dish, like you said. The guy's got an absolute right full of an arm.
Like defensively, that's not really going to go anywhere. He's just the at-bats are just simply awful. Like I watch a lot of Taylor Walls baseball, and I can tell you the same sentiment happens when I've seen Patrick Bailey at the plate. It just looks really, really bad.
Changes need to be made to his approach and his swing up there. I agree. But hey, a lot of other positives for this Giants team. I have been pleasantly surprised. I was not expecting to see this team, 6 games over 500 at this point. Shout out the Giants, right?
Yep.
Another team that's been surging, impressing me a ton. The Tigers. Go Tigers. Bro, they've been goods. And I know we've been talking about this Tigers team for the last couple of seasons as they've improved, right? A lot of good young talent on this team. But, Tariq Skubal has been a menace. That dude is an ace, right? He might not have the best start tonight. I know we're fading him tonight, but he's an ace. He's an absolute menace, one of the best left-handed pitchers in the game. Kid's a stud. And how about Javi Baez? Might be the story of the first month of the season. Javi Baez hitting over 300. Javi Baez playing center field, robbing home runs for the Detroit Tigers. Who saw this one coming? Not me. I thought his career was toast. Shout out Javi. Anybody else want to gas up on the Tigers, bro?
It could be take your pick at this point, truly, because we were talking about this last year prior to when they made their run. We talked about this year. Like, all you have to do with this pitching staff is hit a little bit. And, like, you have Zach McKinstry, like Gleyber Torres, Dylan Dingler, Javi Baez, all hitting at or very, very near 300. And I didn't even mention, Spencer Torkelson, who might not have the average, but he's putting up power numbers. Same goes for Riley Green, who he seems to be the RBI guy when Spencer Torkelson doesn't do it, even though he went through a super cold stretch of his own for a couple weeks there. So, this whole lineup's just putting it together right now. They're doing enough of what needs to be done. The pitching, we kind of expected to be good going into the season, and it's been all that plus some, I would say. Like, Casey Mize has been a pretty pleasant surprise. Like, you knew you were going to get stuff back with Flaherty. Reese Olson's been good. But one guy I think hasn't really been disappointing by the numbers so far yet, but I think is probably someone I'm not buying into the rest of the year is Jackson Jobe. I think the regression is going to start to come for him. I was pretty disappointed. I have been pretty disappointed about what he's done so far after like the first couple appearances, but that's all to say. Everybody else has been great. So like, that team, especially in the AL Central, where I don't really know where everybody else is at in that division. Like, the Guardians are doing Guardians things where, like, they're a lot better than people realize just looking at their record, but I don't really believe in them too much. The Royals are starting to pick it up, but their offense is still horrid, and the back end of the rotation and the pitching staff is just not good, and Twins suck, White Sox suck. So it's the Tigers' division right now to lose, and I don't think it's going to change.
Dude, honestly, I agree. Been so impressed by this Tiger squad. We'll see if they can keep it up. But as of right now, they have impressed me a ton. In first place in maybe the worst division in baseball history, the AL Central. Something needs to be done about that. I'll say it.
Yeah.
Let's mix and match the AL Central here. Let's pull, the Astros a couple years ago switched divisions. Can we tinker a little bit here? Because this division's a joke. It's not fair. Jovan, you put the Nats in the AL Central, they're going to the playoffs.
Put the White Sox in the AL East, man. We need a softball. We need one.
And who do you want to move out? The O's?
Send out the fucking – no, we don't need the O's because we need – I guess that's our second softball. We need 2 of those.
Get the Blue Jays out of here, man. They're useless.
Get the Jays. Get the Jays. They can
get them out of here. Although they might end up winning the AL East this year. Who knows?
Yeah, they might, honestly.
Dude, if the Tigers don't win this division this year, it's now or never, right? The Guardians stink this season. We'll talk about Clase in a moment. The Royals have not impressed me a ton so far this year. The Twins, don't even get me started with the Twins. The Twins look like they're losing on purpose. The Twins look like they got 9 Rafael Devers out there, a bunch of guys who are me guys who don't give a shit about the team. Look at the fucking dugout during the games. These guys don't talk to each other. They're not hanging out. They're not making jokes. They are toxic. These guys don't give a shit. They got to blow up this team. The Twins are a joke. And that's what happens when you got a squad led by guys like Carlos Correa. Oh, just the worst mentality ever. A guy who just made it all about himself and made it seem like it was cool that he cheated and didn't care what people thought. The worst. No wonder why the team has the worst chemistry of all time. You got Carlos Correa involved. Good fucking luck winning games. Once again, the Twins are stinking. 13-19. Something needs to be done.
Yeah. And I mean, health hasn't helped them necessarily, but healthy or not, they've just been bad. So
they're bad.
I don't know if there's any hope for that team, even if they are to get healthy for the rest of the season. But
yep.
Shout out only bright spot. Shout out Ty France. He's back.
He actually is back. Yes.
He's legit in there.
I know that's a Jovan guy. Good to see him back in action.
Certified Jovan guy. Always has been, always will be. I'm glad to see him up and moving now. He's been, I guess, like the most reliable bat right now in the Twins lineup, which is crazy. Yeah.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
That's actually embarrassing for the Twins, respectfully.
Really bad.
Shout out your guy, Ty France and all, but that should never be a sentence that's said out loud. Right? Because to show you the state of that team. Blow it up. They got to make a ton of significant changes. They stink.
Yeah,
all right.
Definitely.
We just talked a lot about the AL Central, Jovan. I want to take you to the AL West. Okay? AL West, man. Tight race. A lot of squads all within a couple games of each other. You got 4 teams within 3 games of each other. Mariners right now in first. The Astros in second. You got the Athletics chilling right now. 2 games over 500. Shout out the Athletics. And then the Rangers, who are playing terrible right now, but still 500. That's impressive. They look like they've never swung a baseball bat in their entire life right now, and they're still 500. So very competitive division right now, Jovan. Let me ask you this. If you had to pick one of those 4 teams that I just mentioned, because we know it's not going to be the Angels, respectfully.
Yeah.
Who are you taking to win this division? Are you going with the Mariners right now who have a little bit of a buffer? Or are you taking a stab at old reliable Houston? Or are you going with the new kids on the block, the Athletics? Or maybe even the former reigning champs, the Rangers? Who are you rocking with this year?
Still think I want to rock with the Rangers.
Okay.
Still think I want to stick to that. Part of the reason is
you get a good future in right now with that. Good value.
Yeah, could definitely get some value. I mean, the offense has been pitiful for a lot of the year. Again, like they've been a little on the bad side with health, both in their rotation and in the lineup. So once that kind of gets around, I think they'll be better. I think they'll find their footing. But I mean, the pitching staff has been largely good. You know, I don't want to jinx it, but DeGrom looks like DeGrom again after a shaky couple starts. Like Tyler Mahle has randomly been really good in this rotation, and he's filling in. And once that rotation fills out with all of the healthy bodies, I think they're going to be just fine. The bullpen is still another question, but again, like same thing we've said for a couple of these teams. I think the Rangers, as far as their lineup goes, offensively, they're at probably their lowest point you could be at this point in the season. Like they've been hitting awful, and they're terrible against lefties. That's only going to continue to turn around, especially the more they see them. It's like right now, I'm staring at them in like the 4 spot right now, playing as bad as possible. Only 2 games out of first. Still think it's the Rangers. I got to give credit to like the other teams up there too. But the one thing I guess looming over this entire division right now is Logan Gilbert, who I am very concerned. That's another Jovan guy, certified. Always has been, always will be. But he got taken out of a start with an elbow injury, and I don't know what his timetable looks like. They've been eerily quiet on any updates for him, which I think is really, really bad.
Never good.
Especially for that rotation, which not like he has been the rock for that rotation, not because he's the best pitcher, but he's the only one that seems to have any command of the strike zone right now. Like Emerson Hancock has always had walk problems, and he's given up a lot of contact, even though he's been a little better. Bryce Miller just walked 5 against the Angels in his last start, and that's been the same thing he's done all year. Luis Castillo still giving up barrels, both of them. So I don't know. That rotation just looks so much more human without Logan Gilbert in it. So, I mean, I'm hoping he's not long-term injured, but kind of counting or assuming the worst right now. That's really bad for that team.
Not good. I'm looking at the odds for this division. Mariners and Astros, obviously first and second, based on shortest odds. You get the Mariners at plus 150, the Astros right behind them at plus 190. Was expecting to see the Rangers, I don't know, at least getting a 3 in the beginning of their number here, at least plus 300, maybe even plus 400 at this point. considering how good some of the other teams have been in this division. Jovan, the Rangers are only plus 230. They are right behind the Astros. Looks like the odds makers are with you. They still believe in the Rangers. They like what they see so far, even with only a 500 record.
Yeah, I think it's can only go up for them. But
yep,
it's can't go throughout here without talking about the A's, Krabs, the Goats.
Sure.
Goats.
The A's have been fun. They've been very impressive. This team can hit the baseball. They've had some good pitching performances as well from some guys who you wouldn't expect it, although baseball guys might. I mean, Jeffrey Springs is coming off an absolute gem. They got, Severino in that rotation as well, and he's doing yob. He's had a couple good starts. Mason Miller, obviously one of the best closers in baseball. They got a couple guys in that bullpen. I've been very impressed by this team, although we expected good things heading into this season, Jovan. If you would have asked me if the A's would be, 2 games over 500 at this point, I'd still say no before the season. They're overperforming. They're over-exceeding expectations. I've been very impressed with this Athletics team. Jovan, let me ask you, do you think they're a legit contender this year?
I think there's a shot, absolutely. And obviously you're speaking to someone who has a sneak A's to make the playoff ticket, so I'm hoping for chaos. And the pitching staff really couldn't get worse than like it has been the last couple of years. Part of that's just because they really didn't have any interest in investing, and now this year the MLB made them do it. But JP Sears has been fantastic. Like, I know we faded him a couple times, kind of hoping for the turnaround point to come where he starts looking like JP Sears again, but he's got a sub-3 ERA. He's been dealing.
Yep.
Like, Sevy's been good. He's had a 3.3. Like, Springs has honestly looked the most shaky out of anybody in the rotation out of what we expected from him. And he still has 5 ERA, but we saw what he could do when he has a good matchup against the Rangers. Absolutely dominated them. So, like, the rotation's good. They still have, like, an open spot now because, the Ginn injury and whoever was slotted there, they got to figure something out. And they called up some prospects to see if that was going to be the way they're going to handle it. So there's still a question mark there, but they're good. They just cause chaos. The lineup's good. I will say Lawrence Butler has been kind of disappointing. Thought that he was going to be, I think a lot of us thought he was going to take like a big next step, and he's just been not great up there. A lot of whiffs, a lot of really bad at bats, bad approach.
Yeah. A couple clutch hits, grand slam, but overall, not impressive, underperforming. Certainly.
Yeah, for sure. So I think he can turn it around. And the rest of that lineup's been solid. Rooker's been great. Bangalier's been great. Jacob Wilson, great. Love to see some yeah, I was going to say, love to see some MVP talks for Tyler Soderstrom, greatest player in the league. Then Nick Kurtz. We'll see how he bangs out. But we're pretty getting his first taste of him in the MLB, which is great.
Yep. Yeah, he needs some more bats. He doesn't look great up there right now, but
no.
I believe could be a potential power bat down the line. Jovan, I want to dive into something that you and me and Goots have talked about a little bit over the last couple of weeks. Let's talk about the A's, but not for this year. You asked a pretty interesting question a couple of days ago, and I kind of want our listeners to take a crack at this, and maybe they could drop their opinions in the chat on YouTube if they're watching this on YouTube at Bookit Sports. If they're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, we appreciate you guys. Keep listening, and thank you guys for tapping in. But if you're watching on YouTube at Bookit Sports, drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this question that Jovan asked the other day. Do the A's have a chance to win a World Series in the next decade? I think it's a pretty interesting question, and we actually disagreed. Jovan, I'll ask you the question first. And again, all the listeners out there, drop your answer in the chat, in the YouTube if you're watching over there. Jovan, do you think the A's have a chance to win a World Series in the next decade?
Well, let's be clear. The question was, is it crazy to say that they could win a World Series in the next 10 years? Which to that, I said no. Just because the amount of young talent on that roster, like we've already seen the amount, like we're seeing the young core now, all the guys we just talked about, and the MLB forced them to spend the smallest bit of money on Severino and Springs and a guy here, a guy there. So, like, that's all it took to, I guess, move the needle to where they are right now. Obviously, it's May, start of May, so a lot of different things could go a lot of different ways. But I think with this core that they have that is super well established, you kind of get yourself a rotation. I would say it's not crazy at all to think a couple of years down the line, they could be in the mix with some of the best teams in the league. Obviously, the question is, are they going to spend? How's the move going to go? And how is that going to affect everything? But I think it's not crazy to say at all. I think this young core is one of the most exciting ones in the league.
They're very exciting. They're very fun. They're very cool, much like my Nats. Maybe a hair better. That doesn't mean that they're going to win the World Series, though. And you're right. That's not the question that was asked. The question was, is it crazy to think that the Athletics could win a World Series over the next 10 years? You say no. I say yes. I think it actually is crazy, unfortunately. Although it would make one heck of a Disney movie in the next 10 or so years. I'm sure they would craft one up pretty quickly. I think it is crazy. I really do. I think it's crazy to say that the Athletics could win a World Series in the next 10 years. Let me give you one reason why. And there's probably 10 I could think of, but there's one especially. It's the only thing that really matters. Ownership. Jovan, how often do you see crummy run teams, crummy run orgs, owners who are clueless, owners who make the wrong decisions, terribly run teams end up winning the championship in their respected, league?
Not too often.
Never. It doesn't happen. As a guy who's been a fan of the worst owner in sports history, Dan Schneider, go to hell, my man. Worst owner in sports history. Jovan, it's not possible. Let's not forget how atrocious of a job this ownership group has done with the Oakland Athletics. So much so that they're playing baseball games in Sacramento right now. What a joke. Sure, it's cool. More home runs. And who really gives a shit? It's the Oakland Athletics. But it really is a joke if you think about it. It's a joke. They should be playing in Oakland right now. Or at least right in Vegas. They can't even figure that shit out. If you think this team's winning the World Series in the next decades, come on. I do think it's crazy. When you got nincompoops running the organization, like chickens with their head cut off, they don't stand a chance. And they will find a way to fuck it up down the line, unfortunately. It's been a good year for the A's. It's so much fun to watch. We all root for the Athletics. Baseball's better when the A's are better. I say it all the time. But it is crazy to say they're going to win a World Series, in my opinion.
I'll agree with that take in the sense that, like, the ownership doesn't improve. I mean, there's probably not a shot in the world, but I think you're underselling a little bit just how improved and how much more competent the ownership is going to magically become the second they're in Vegas. Not just because
sure
it's probably going to be a Rob Manfred directive. Yeah, but it's also like,
sure,
you're in Vegas. This is your chance, especially with a lot of these teams that are deferring money. If we're talking like the back end of this 10 years, which is probably when they're going to be settling into Vegas for a couple years down the road. But by the time you get to the end of this 10 years, the deferred money is going to start hitting all of these more expensive teams' payroll, especially the Dodgers. So we'll see. That might level the playing field a little bit, even if they aren't spending at a level like that, which they probably won't be. But once you move to Vegas, I think the whole ownership group is going to start to move a little differently. So I want to give them, I don't want to say give them credit, but I think it's underselling them a little bit to say the ownership is going to behave like they are right now once you're in Vegas in that market with Rob Manfred pulling a lot of strings to make sure they don't fuck it up.
Okay. Sure. They could certainly use some help, and it's going to take some help. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if the MLB steps in and gives them a little bit of a bump. And I think that's a pretty good take as well with the deferred money. Now, if there was a salary cap or if, look, I can already tell you right now, these owners are going to go out and get their money. They're going to go out and get more money. Whether they got to bring in more owners or whatever the hell they're going to do, like that deferred money shit's not even going to matter because Dodgers and Yankees have been weaseling out of that stuff since I've been born. It's not going to matter. It's so beat. But that's just facts. Now, the Manfred take and the Vegas take and having some more coins, more eyeballs, more people caring, that I could believe in. Certainly. Yeah. But rare disagreements between Jovan and Krabs up here.
I think another interesting light to look at it in, which is not directly World Series, you still got to go through the other league, but what young core in the AL would you put ahead of them?
Yeah, the AL is dog shit, by the way.
Like in the long term.
Get that out. Yeah.
I know. Like in the long, obviously a lot can happen in the next 10 years that make things look very differently, though.
Yeah.
But I look at a lot of these AL teams, and a lot of the best ones are relatively old.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously moves can be made and guys can be brought up from the farm system and you can draft well. But, I mean, it seems like the best position from all of these younger teams has got to be the A's, right?
It is. It is. And I wish that directly correlated to a World Series.
Nah,
I need to
yeah,
see
of course.
I need to see the A's re-sign more guys. And hey, we did see that this offseason. We saw them and we saw them bring in a couple guys. Now they might have been held at gunpoint in GTA to bring in a couple guys in free agency by Rob Manfred, like you were talking about, because they realize how much of a joke this Oakland situation is and they're trying to help, right? And they might have said, hey, you got to go out there and sign a couple people. They are. But hey, there's going to be a time, just like the Orioles coming up, which is probably the only other team I throw out there in the ring that has, the same amount of quantity of young talents, maybe not quality, but quantity. At some point, you have to re-sign all these guys, and it's going to all be relatively at the same time.
Well, they've
Teams
got
with a lot of money can't pay all their guys, let alone teams with no money. The Athletics.
they've got Rooker through 29
They
and
got him.
Butler signed through
Yeah.
31. So that's
Yeah,
a
that's
big help.
huge.
A big help that they already, those are pretty team friendly contracts too. I mean, Lawrence Butler got 7 years, 65 mil, which for
nothing.
contracts like that we've seen this year, that is fucking pennies. Maybe not for the A's because they don't really spend that much, but
Right.
it's a good deal to have going down the line. Same for Rooker, even though he's a little on the
Yeah.
older side out of all the people in the core.
Yep. No, you're so right. Hey, I'd love to see them re-sign all these other great young players and have it work out. And I honestly, I'm not even fucking around. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I hope they do go to a World Series or make the playoffs, something. We're all rooting for the A's. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe I'm just scarred from having, shitty owners on my teams. Maybe I'm just hurt.
I want to look at it through like the Vegas lens that we're talking about too. Like, you see how well it worked for the NHL once they got a team to Vegas and how big they blew that up. Everybody wants to move to Vegas. Obviously, like the NBA is still trying to find a way to do it. Do you think the MLB is going to let the A's ownership blow their chance? And again, it doesn't mean a World Series, but I'm just talking about like they're not going to let them manage the team the same way they're screwing it up right now.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised. I agree. Yeah, there will be improvements. Let's hope it's enough. Let's hope it's enough. Vegas also had that rigged ass draft. We can't forget about that. They changed the rules of the expansion draft after that. So they were too good. They had too good of a draft. Their GM was the old Caps GM, and he should be legs kicked up right now on a beach on his own private island. Have a draft. And here we are talking about hockey. Who would have thought?
Shout out VGK.
Yeah, shout out VGK. Let's move and groove. Interesting question. I'm happy we got to talk about that. Is it crazy to think the A's could do it? Well, only one way to find out. At least they're moving in the right direction, right? I feel like that's at least clear. Team's better now than they were last year, right?
Yeah, at least they're not in the endless cycle of the White Sox.
Baby steps. Rome wasn't built in a day. Took decades. Yep. All right, a couple other topics I want to talk about. A lot going on through the first month of the season, Jovan, and we got a couple other things to bring up here. Trade deadline, still kind of far away. Are there any guys or teams you think are going to be on the move or making moves? Sandy Alcantara was a guy who I thought in the beginning of the season would be one of the big names on the move, but he looks like he might be washed. So who even knows what's going to happen with him? And if he does end up moving, it's probably going to be for something cheap at this point. If the Cardinals end up stinking, maybe they finally actually move Ryan Helsley. I feel like we've been hearing that for the last half a decade. He's an absolute beast, but he's not having the greatest start to the season so far this year. So that also throws an interesting twist into it. But are there any teams or players you think are going to be on the move or making moves, in the next couple months?
Well, I guess another time I'm going to stand on business and reiterate one of my preseason takes because he's been pretty good to start the season. I think depending on what route the White Sox take, if they're willing to deal another pitcher that I think is going to be a commodity, I think Davis Martin is that pitcher, Krabs.
Wow.
He's been damn solid to start the year so far. You got 3.24, and that's really inflated from a really bad start he had against the Tigers where he gave up 7. But other than that, he's been really good against some of the better offenses in the league, frankly, too. So, he's their arm, one of the better arms that I think nobody knows about right now because he's on the White Sox. And I think by the time we get to the end of July, he's going to be relatively coveted arm, especially for the price. So I think he's a guy to watch out for some of these contending teams that might need an arm.
Yeah. I mean, look, I feel like it's not, and it's still early, right? We're a month in, so a lot could change in the coming months before the deadline. But I don't know, not as many teams I feel like willing to make moves, or not as many big name players or guys, in the last year of their contract who have been talking about all offseason, getting ready to be moved potentially before the deadline. It's been a low quantity, type of season for that, I feel like, up to this point. So now a lot could change. And there were a couple other names that I threw out there, like Helsley. Who knows how that plays out? But yeah, still a lot can change. And like you talked about with the Orioles, right? This is a proven month, not just for them, but for a lot of squads, right? First month of the season, who gives a hoot, right? Baseball, so many games. It doesn't matter. So much variance. You could have one crummy month. The Nationals, worst team in baseball for 2 months, they win the World Series, right? I know I always bring the Nats up, but it literally doesn't matter. Month 2, though, you got to start making some positive impacts, positive changes, and better in your squads and playing better, right? You need to see some improvements going on. If you don't, 2 months in, you're going to start seeing some changes made to the squad, some trades being made, right? And that's when we're going to be able to start to say, hey, maybe this guy will be on the move, right? Or maybe this team will be looking for somebody. So next State of the Union we'll probably have a better idea of some names or some teams looking to make some moves. As of right now, not much going on yet. Not much going on yet.
The Rays are probably going to be setting.
They're always involved.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm still waiting for the day. I really don't know how I feel about Brandon Lau, but they have like multiple middle infield prospects that are going to be coming up at some point between like Braden Taylor and Carson Williams, and like they're not playing third because Junior's there. So if they're really willing to like sell somewhat high if he goes for a little better price and starts hitting the ball a little better on Brandon Lau, that's probably going to come at some point, or like a Caballera, or maybe they flip like a Song Kim at some point. Like somebody's going, I think, this trade deadline too.
Wow. Like the Rays are always making moves. See what they end up doing in a couple months.
In the mix, man. Always.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, I wanted to bring up one more topic here. I mentioned Emmanuel Clase earlier, and shout out Clase. I took his less than saves in my MLB season-long goat whale.
Yeah.
And knock on wood,
Krabs.
Looks pretty good so far, right? Although I did see him back in the closer role the other night, so maybe they're starting to give him more chances.
Well, it was a tied game.
Yeah. So still might not have been the spot for the closer. Who knows, right?
Yeah, no save situation, but he's moving out of high leverage spots for the foreseeable future, he says.
That's huge for my MLB season-long goat whale. Now, I will say he's not the only closer in baseball who's been struggling this season. He's not the only closer in baseball who's been struggling over the last couple of years who's been a GOAT, in years past. Is there a problem with closers in baseball? Or is it just that fucking hard to go out there and shut down the team to close out the last 3 outs of the game? And maybe we're just seeing that, in effect right now. But Jovan, there's been a lot of guys who've been struggling over the last couple of years as well. I mean, I've been, fading closers on Prize Picks on the season-long category for the last 3 seasons and had pretty good luck, knock on woods. This year, you got David Bednar getting sent down a week into the season. You got Edwin Diaz all over the place, and it hasn't really bit him in the ass yet, but if he keeps pitching like this, it will. Emmanuel Clase lost his closer role. Devin Williams lost his closer role, right? He's not pitching in high leverage situations right now either, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
That guy was the best closer in baseball last year or 2 years ago. That's insane. Is there something up with the closers in baseball, or is it just that fucking hard to close out baseball games?
It's pretty tough. I don't want to make it sound simple, but I do think there's something to be said for pitchers who, like, you're getting closers in a very short sample size, obviously. So, like, it's not like a starting pitcher where, like, over the course of your appearance, you can change a bunch of different things. And, like, if they're seeing something well, you have a couple more innings to adjust yourself and, I don't know, throw something else, look better. Like, you got to come in with a plan and execute that plan. If it doesn't work, But when you look at, like, the guys like the Devin Williams of the world and the Clases of the world, their arsenal and everything they kind of bring out there has been the same for a couple years now. So teams are starting to figure that out, and they haven't made adjustments yet. Like the guy that we were talking about preseason, who happens to be, I don't know if he's still leading the league in saves. I guess he's second to Robert Suarez, who also fills the bill, but like Andres Munoz, who had a pretty bad last year, and he came back, switched his arsenal. He's one of like the kick change guys. Like,
yep.
He's been great so far this year. Robert Suarez, changes arm slots. Like, he's been great. So, like, all the pitchers, all the closers, I guess, that have made some sort of adjustment, like, you're giving teams something different to look for 3 outs. So, like, it's working. All the closers that haven't done that are struggling. I don't think it's too complicated of a formula yet.
Wow. Pretty good take. Haven't thought of it like that before. maybe some changes need to be made. Maybe some tweaks need to be made for these closers who think their shit doesn't stink and have been really good and elite over the last couple of years. Hey, these hitters have seen you. They got a bigger sample size now. Make some changes, make some tweaks. Like those two GOATs this season you just mentioned, Suarez and Munoz. And hey, Suarez might have more saves. Munoz is the best closer in baseball right now. He's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Has not given up a run all season.
That is insane.
Yeah, through how many appearances? 5, 10, 15, 17.
Huh. Dude's him. Unbelievable. Shout out Munoz. Have a year, kid. But yeah, changes need to be made.
Did not realize third in saves is Kyle Finnegan, Krabs.
And if Kyle Finnegan's third in saves, there is a closer problem, respectfully. And I love me some Kyle Finnegan. He's Irish. I love screaming at the ball game. Take me to the pub, Finnegan. Close it down, right? Close the pub down. It sounds like his last name just sounds like an Irish pub, right? Finnegan's. If he's the third best closer in baseball, that's a problem. That's a problem.
I mean, a lot of his saves are just.
It's never easy. Never once has been.
I mean, I'm looking at the teams who's gotten saves against. He got a couple decent ones at the beginning of the year, but it's all Orioles, 2 against the Rockies, Pirates, Marlins.
Sure.
You got the one of the Dodgers with a 2-run lead. And he almost blew. So
yeah,
Finnegan, been a little fortunate.
I've never said Finnegan was good, but I've been very impressed with the results the last year and a half. Can't deny that. He's getting a lot of saves.
He's not terrible.
No. But there's always people on base. There's always some bullshit. There's always wild pitches. There's always a walk-off home run once a month. There's always some bullshit. Yep. But yeah, Jovan, thank you for bringing that up because that perfectly encapsulates the closer position right now in baseball. If Kyle Finnegan starts, some of these guys need to go back to the drawing board. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, looking
and that's under 500, and he's third in saves.
The top guys are outside of like Suarez and Munoz, I guess, look normal. But like you're looking down the list, it's like outside of like Mason Miller, like it's Finnegan, it's Estevez, even though the Royals haven't been so far good so far this year. Luke Jackson for the Rangers, like they haven't been good most of the year either. Then like you got to scroll down all the way to like 14, 15. You see Doval, you see Class A, you see Chapman, even though he's been good. Devin Williams is down there. Helsley and Bednar are down there. So it's weird to say the least.
Yeah. We got a closer problem in baseball, folks. We're due for some more talent, I guess, some new talent. It's been a tough year for the closers. All right, Jovan, I want to talk about one more thing. I want to talk about some players who have been balling out this year. I'll throw a couple guys at you. You can tell me if you think it's sustainable. You can gas them up. You can shit on them, whatever you want to do. We already talked about Aaron Judge and his historic heater to start the season. We're not going to talk about him again. I'll tell you that much. Let's talk about Yamamoto. Let's talk about him because he's impressed me, man. He's starting to get going here. He's impressed me. He's got about a 1 ERA. He's low-key been dominating after a couple sketchy starts to begin the season. He's been damn near unhittable. Are you buying into Yamamoto, or do you think he's just a flash in the pan and teams will get used to him and they'll adjust?
I think they'll adjust to like at some level, but I mean, he's been fantastic. Like he's one of those guys that he's not in the bucket of like some of the other elite pitchers that I'm more so worried about. We talked about a lot of the guys up here that have like really bad expected numbers. His are not there, and he has such a diverse offering that it's really hard for hitters to key in, especially when he has his stuff. So like, I think he's going to be great. That's not a guy that I really want to fade for the rest of the season. So I'm excited to watch him pitch. It's been a joy so far, even though I can't stand watching the Dodgers do anything good, but I'll watch from Yamamoto for sure.
Sure. Yeah. What's your thoughts on the Dodgers too? Side notes. Are you impressed? I know the record's fine, but I have not been impressed by the eye test at what I've seen out there. And you got some injuries already going on. But the record's fine. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm impressed. It's hard to say because like 21-10 is impressive. We just don't really know what the standards are for a team that's this talented on paper because we really haven't seen
expensive.
It. Yeah, and that expensive, of course. Like I'll say like the pitching staff's been a little disappointing at times, and maybe that gets covered up a little bit. Like the numbers still look good by the fact that they've had a lot of series against some of the worst offenses in baseball. Yeah. Like sure, they went through, some of the better teams in the beginning. They've had a couple series against the Cubs. Like but they played the Phillies too. But like when they went on the road against these better offenses, they shat the bed, and that wasn't even the pitching staff. That was the lineup. We talked about that. I think it was in that Cubs series where, I mean, they just fell apart for those little 2 games. But ever since then, like the only games they've had are a series against the Pirates where their lineup got dominated by Skenes. It was the best start of the year, and they've played the Marlins. So like, I'm not really impressed because they haven't done it consistently enough against some of the better teams. They've just been beating the hell out of the Rockies, Pirates, Marlins, Nats. Not even Nats because they lost series to Nats, but like they got to show me something more consistently against the top of the teams before I'm like, wow, this team is unstoppable.
They're kind of treading water right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say treading water. That might be underselling them a little bit because like they're still 21-10. It's just like they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, that's fair.
That. Yeah,
that's fair. All right, so there's 3 guys in baseball who have 10 home runs this year. And by the way, don't cheat, although you probably already know the answer. We have obviously already talked about the one guy, Baltimore, Aaron Judge. He's got 10. You know the other 2 guys who are up there tied?
I think I know one. I know, isn't Cal Raleigh up there?
Yeah.
Big dumper.
How about Big Dumper? And that's the only guy I really want to talk about. The other guy's Eugenio Suarez, who
I was going to
shout out Eugenio Suarez every year.
Go.
But I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about our guy, Big Dumper here, Cal Raleigh. Right? We've been a fan of him and his game for the last 3 or 4 years. He's slimmed down a little bit. He's, not lost any power. He's a pretty darn good catcher back there behind the dish. He's a leader of the team. He, goes out there to talk to the pitcher, calm him down. They'll send him out there and not even send the pitching coach out there because they just want Cal to talk to the guy. Great clubhouse guy, great ball player, having one heck of a year and following up a great season last year too, Jovan. I've been so impressed by Cal Raleigh. Is he still underrated? Is he not like the best catcher in baseball right now? Like Cal Raleigh deserves more respect and he's not getting it.
Yeah. I mean, he's been absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
Like he's been that whole Mariners offense. Like I'm a little worried about their pitching in the offset. And like, I'm not super excited about their offense, but it's been better than expected. And I always say this when we get to like, especially the Mariners, like when they go on the road, people view what their offense is in Seattle. Like it's what their offense is going to be 24/7 when in reality, it's just really fucking hard to hit there. And truthfully, like they've beat the allegations sometimes too. Like Cal Raleigh's been incredible. Even like Jorge Polanco's been great. J-Rod's been a little cold, but he's had his moments. Same with Randy. Like that whole lineup is better than people get it credit for. And Big Dumper has been, I mean, I would say he's been the best catcher in baseball to this point.
Yeah. Agreed. Not even close. Leading baseball in home runs. Good for Cal Raleigh. Good for him. Hope he keeps it up. All right. One other guy I wanted to bring up here before we close it out. You talked about this gentleman preseason. You said he's going to win the MVP. Jovan, he fucking might. Fernando Tatis. He's him. Right? Legit him. Padres are playing well right now. Tatis is doing yob. I mean, he got out to the hottest start ever. Might not be the hottest hitter in baseball right this second, but he's still doing yob. Nothing to complain about. Where's your head at with Tatis? Do you still think he wins MVP? Gas him up a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, I do. He's still hitting 345 with 8 home runs. He just continues to stack like multi-hit games. Like, it's hard to not give like respect to the other guys that are in the race because truthfully, I'm looking as we speak about where exactly the odds are currently. But this is one of like the more incredible, I think, MVP races that we're going to see. And I'm talking about the NL in that fact because like Ohtani's still the favorite at plus 290, like Kyle Tucker is plus 350, Tatis plus 450, Corbin Carroll plus 500, Pete Alonso plus 700. Like all of those guys have incredibly legitimate cases right now. But again, like I still think Tatis, if we get a full season of Tatis healthy, hopefully, and I guess hopefully he's also not on steroids again because I would believe it the way he started the season so far. I think he's going to win it, dude. I think he's been just incredible. It feels like even when the Padres offense is dead, he sparks up with a nuke. He sparks up with even something like on the base pass after he gets a hit. He's just stacking multi-hit games. Like he's been one of my favorite players to watch so far this season. Again, obviously biased because he's in the GOAT whale. I have MVP tickets, but just from a neutral perspective, he's been one of the most fun players in baseball so far. So I'm hoping he keeps it up. I think he certainly can if he stays healthy. But yeah, that's my MVP right now and hopefully for the rest of the season.
Yep. One more question to close this puppy out. Better chance Tatis wins MVP or Patty C wins Comeback Player of the Year?
Do they have that in baseball? Comeback Player of the Year?
No, they don't. But they should make it the
They should
award
get
for
it.
this season and give it to him.
They should.
They should invent it for him. Shout out Patty C.
Real question is Tatis MVP or Patty C 10K game?
Okay. Patty C 10K game or Paul Skenes 10K game?
Honestly, Patty C might get one first.
Paul Skenes is washed.
Dude, he's not washed.
He's washed.
He's not washed.
Do you still agree with your take that you think he's actually a better pitcher right now?
I might walk back better pitcher, but I don't think he's any worse.
I feel like he's trying new things for no reason.
I don't think he's trying new things for no reason. It's just like it's your sophomore year. They finally got a little tape on you. It's like the strikeout stuff. There is no fathomable way, like looking at the numbers last year, that he was going to be as productive strikeout wise going into this season. So like he has to pitch according to that. Like you can't pitch the same way and try to get the same number of strikeouts or like try to generate the same amount of whiffs because like you're simply not going to get it. It's like he has to pitch a little differently. I think it's honestly better that he's trying to pitch to contact a little more because it's better to, I don't know, be on the front foot of that instead of being like what I think Hunter Green is going to be for some of this year, where you're still pitching to a lot of these strikeouts and you're getting him half the time, but you're also giving up very loud contact for the other part of it. So I think Skenes is just, I don't know, being a little more proactive on that front. I don't think it's for no reason, but the strikeouts aren't there. Exactly. I don't think he's any worse of a pitcher.
I would have never thought I'd see 3 home runs hit off of Paul Skenes in one inning in my entire life. I thought he was that good.
Yeah, see that was bad. That was a really bad idea.
I thought he was that good. Or I never thought I'd see something like that before. Shit like that actually concerns me a little bit.
Yeah.
It genuinely does. But hey, he could walk it back and he could change the arm angle back and he could try to go for some more strikeout stuff and see if that works. He could meet somewhere in the middle. I agree with your take, I guess. Like you talked about it with the closers, right? All these guys got to be making changes all the time because if you get complacent, if you throw the same pitch every time, eventually they're going to catch up to it. It doesn't matter if you throw 105. It doesn't matter if you're on the paint every time. Eventually, they will figure it out. They will catch up to it. These guys are that good, right? There's only been a handful of guys ever who have been so dominant where they beat that theory, like Chapman or Mariano Rivera. A handful of guys in my lifetime I've ever seen, pitch who can beat that narrative.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Skenes go a little bit back to being more of a strikeout guy. I'm not fully giving up on him, although I will say I don't want to let this get lost in the shuffle. I would have never expected to see him give up that many nukes in one inning, and that certainly concerns me. Maybe he's pitching a little bit too much to contact right this second.
Yeah.
A little too much.
I mean, that was only those 3 home runs that he gave up. He's only given up 1 the entire rest of the year.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy. That was also against, one of the best offenses in baseball right now in the Cubs.
You're right. You're right.
I think everybody's.
I thought he was that good. I thought he was above that.
What I was saying is that it's not fathomably possible to be that good again throughout the full course of a season. So like,
it's probably not.
I didn't expect it. I know a lot of people also didn't really expect it. They expected some form of regression, but like if his regression is a 2.74 ERA, then what are we really talking about here?
He must have been pretty fucking good last year then.
Yeah. Like this is like I feel like a lot of the conversation is like splitting hairs with like prime healthy DeGrom.
Sure. Yeah. You're not wrong. I honestly agree with that. You take a 2.74 ERA, right?
Oh yeah.
100%. And he's probably due for some positive regression after a start like that. So yeah, Skenes will be fine. He'll be fine. All right, Jovan. Any other players you want to gas up or roast before we close this puppy down?
I'm surprised we got through this entire pod and there was such very minimal mention of James Wood from you, Krabs.
Really trying not to talk about the Nats too much on here because I know that people don't want to hear it too much. I'm really trying to be good. I was yapping already in the beginning.
I was giving you a pass, or I would have given you a pass on that.
I know.
He's incredible.
He's incredible. And the crazy part is, Jovan, there's still so much more room to grow. Like if you watch this kid every night, you know that there's still potential untapped. You watch him out there in left field. He looks like a fucking newborn deer out there. He's so clumsy running around. He still makes the plays 9.5 times out of 10. which is the craziest part, right? He still has growing pains. And look at the success he's having while he's going through these growing pains. That's what's been so impressive, where he's not even the finished product yet. And I'll be honest, right now, he's not coming off the best series against the Phillies. It's a good pitching staff, right? They probably crunched some numbers, and they had a pretty good game plan against him in that series. And I would not be shocked if you see James Woods, the next week or so, hit a couple more nukes. It's been a couple days. But if you guys haven't watched him play, I mean, it's pretty clear. He has some of the most raw power in the entire game, and he's 21 years old. Incredible. So much raw power.
I've said it before, but I'll say it again just so you can splooge, Krabs. I don't know that I've seen another player hit the ball with power the opposite way like he does it, other than the couple times I've seen Ohtani do it. Not a couple times, all the time, but that's the only guy that I'm like watching him hit the ball the opposite way, like someone I've never seen it before. That's the only guy that I think can do it at a similar way. Yep,
it looks like it's fake. It looks like
legit. AI. Like it looks like that one in Coors was obviously in Coors, but it was absurd. The crack of the bat, it's like that opposite field power I can't even do in the show.
Like don't even try to catch that ball. You're going to get hurt. Not even Zach Campbell.
No, Zach Campbell will be on a stretcher if you try to catch that ball.
As he should be. Stay away from James Wood, Zach Campbell. Piece of shit. All right, Jovan. Just as we should have, we closed this puppy down with some Nats talk. And by the way, shout out Dylan Cruz. Although he did not get a hit against the Phillies in the series, he's still taking much better approaches and much better at bats up there at the dish.
So some sneak ups of field power too.
Yes, he might be good at baseball.
Yeah,
he might be good at baseball. Yep. All right, WMLB Pod, W State of the Union. We appreciate all you guys listening. And again, I'm going to ask you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy or if you think Jovan's crazy with the A's, potentially making a run in the next 10 years. Do we think it's crazy to say that the A's could win a World Series in the next 10 years? I want your guys' thoughts in the YouTube chat. Let me know. All right, I'm going to go through and read all these comments. So we appreciate you guys listening. And again, if you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. Okay, stay posted for some more MLB pods down the line. And yeah, what a great start to the MLB season so far, Jovan. Let's hope it continues.
Yep. Also, feel free to bitch in the comments about how bad the Orioles are. Thank you, Goots.
#thank you, Goots. We appreciate all you guys listening. We'll catch you on the next pod.